This is the #1 complaint from homeowners about their custom build, and I'm here to solve it for you. So why does this problem persist if it's such a big deal? I don't know. No, I'm kidding, I do. If your custom home builder is taking days to respond to your messages, if you feel like your project is happening to you instead of with you, if you're paying massive bills every month and you feel like you have no idea what's going on your job site, well, you're not alone. 32% of homeowners say poor communication is their #1 complaint about their builder and the building process. Not going over budget, not schedule delays, communication. And to me, that's about as surprising as the sun coming up this morning. I'm Aaron, Director and Lead Instructor at Albatross Academy. I've spent the last 15 years in the construction industry as an estimator, project manager, designer, and instructor. And today I'm going to tell you the uncomfortable truth about why this problem exists and what you can do about it. Here's the irony that's stronger than the smell of regret in a McDonald's restroom. We have more ways to communicate than ever before. We have text, email, Slack, WhatsApp, video calls, old-fashioned phone calls, and yet communication or poor communication is still the #1 complaint. How does that happen? It's ranked higher than going over budget and blowing your schedule. Communication. So that means that homeowners care more about being kept in the loop than they do about their time and their money. What? Now, when I first read that statistic, it took me aback for a second. But when I reflected on my own experiences, it actually made a lot of sense. Clients absolutely hate the feeling of having their projects happen to them. Like they have no agency. This is a runaway train that started down the track. They just pay massive bills every month. And then at some point, the builder tells them this thing is over. That is the most helpless feeling for a homeowner. And it's so unnecessary. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about the situation where a builder takes a deposit and then they stop answering their phone. That's a crime, and that's a very different video. I'm talking about the builders that are doing the work, but they don't communicate very well. So clients are left wondering, is my build on time? Is my build on budget? Does the builder need anything from me? What's even happening right now? The rule, bucket #1. So the root of this problem is actually really simple, and it comes down to who the builder is at their core. At the risk of oversimplifying, we can put builders into one of two buckets, bucket 1 or bucket 2. The first bucket contains builders that started as carpentry, they started as apprentices, and they started because they wanted to build things. And they started with a small, say, garden. And I said, like a building, you don't have to beep that. So they like being outside. They like working with their hands. They don't like being in an office or at a desk all day. Looking at spreadsheets and sending emails, that seems like a job for chumps. So they work for years and years on the tools. They gain some more experience. They work more closely with their boss. They take on more responsibility. Then one day, the light bulb goes off. I could be doing the same tasks and make way more money and have way more flexibility like my boss does. I could start my own company. And so they do. They get their first clients. They start small with renovations, additions, and then maybe a custom home eventually comes along, and then maybe 2. And here's where things get funkier than James Brown. Now they find themselves at a desk, sitting all day, staring at spreadsheets, sending emails, and taking phone calls all day. And there's 2 things that go wrong here. #1, they often hate it. They're builders. They're born to work with their hands and be outside and not sit staring at spreadsheets and taking calls all day, remember? And #2, they're often not good at it. They're not trained in it. Unless they had a great builder or a great mentor, they're not salespeople or real estate agents that are born and bred to massage their client base, figuratively. When they're apprentices, their bosses don't usually tell them, this is how you make clients feel valued and seen. They tell them how to build sheds. So when you combine the fact that they hate doing it and they're not good at it, or they were never taught how to do it, you have a recipe for disaster. And bucket #2, the exception. The second bucket of builders contains builders who maybe come from other industries where the client is viewed as a customer, say something like retail. Or they've got builders that have been great mentors to them and have taught them how to make customers feel valued. These builders understand that if they want the goodwill of clients, they have to do 3 things. They have to build the thing really well. They have to stay on budget and on schedule, and they also have to communicate really clearly. And a builder who can do all three will never be out of work. And in making that experience enjoyable, communication is a massive part of that. The client wants to feel informed, valued, and part of the process. Only reaching out when there's major news, or even worse, only reaching out when there's bad news, that really weakens the builder and client trust. Now, what this means for you. If you've been in a romantic relationship and you've been told we need to communicate more, you're not alone. I've heard of people out there like this. Obviously not, but other people. So if that's the case, you know that it's hard to change old habits. So if you're like me, not that I've been told that, but you need systems in place to be able to follow that structure. You need structure in place. And that's what I need. Again, never been told that, but if I were, that's what I would need. Systems that I can rely on to change these old habits. And so this situation is no different. So I've done it for you. Well, for us. I call it the RIM method, R-I-M. So R stands for regularity. Regularity, quite simply, is how often do you want the builder to be communicating with you? How often do you want to have these intervals? So for me, every day is not reasonable. There's not enough change in the project, and it's way too much time for the builder. They would rather be doing something else, and they should be doing something else. Once a month is not regular enough. There's too much that happens, and it's too late to course correct if you need to. So I like to settle on something in between, something between maybe a week or every other week at the most. I is information, and that's where you're going to determine what information you want to know in these weekly communications. To be clear, these shouldn't be budget meetings. Budget meetings should happen on their own about once a month. These weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings should include things like what the crew got done this week, what's coming next week, what budget or schedule implications are as a result of the crew's work that week. If you can think of anything else that you really want to know, then absolutely make sure that the builder knows that and include that in the I in the information category. So the M is for method, and that's quite simply how you want the information communicated. Maybe it's an email, maybe it's a text, maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a site meeting. This is very much up to you, the client, and what works for your schedule. Now, my preference is for site meetings on Friday afternoons. You can be the hero. You can show up with beers or donuts or Gatorade. You can show up with positive vibes to the crew. You can tell them what a great job they've been doing that week, and it'll really help enhance morale. And that way you can see what's been done that week. Now, if you do a site meeting, here's something that's really critical. Make sure you get a synopsis, whether it's written down or it's an email, that's a preference. Make sure you understand and someone has written down what's been discussed and what's been decided upon. You'd be amazed at how many site meetings where we talk about a whole bunch of stuff and then you get back home and you realize, I don't actually know if we decided anything. So make sure you get decisions and what's been discussed in writing. So the really critical piece here is that you stick to it. Once the builder agrees to the regularity, the information, and the method of this weekly communication, it's really important that you stick to it. You can sometimes even write that into your contract if you're pre-contract at this point. But it's really important. It means nothing if you don't stick to it. I found this when I started doing this with my clients as a builder. It made me step up my game. Now, they may grumble about it at first, but really try to sell them on this. Because I had to examine my project and have answers for the clients every week that I may not have otherwise investigated, it became part of my ritual as a project manager to be constantly reviewing my project through the lens of my client meetings that were coming up at the end of day on Friday. So why this works? This is my remedy for the #1 complaint from homeowners about their project. If builders can get this right, they'll incur far more grace from their clients. If the budget starts to slip, the schedule starts to slip, it won't be so antagonistic, that relationship. It really will help the clients gain more agency in their projects and they'll feel more controlled and they'll feel like it's a team effort and far more collaborative, and that's a win for everyone. So quick recap, the RIM method, regularity, stick to, I like Fridays and I like weekly. Information, determine what exactly you want to know in your weekly communication. And method, determine what method works best for you. Again, I prefer site meetings, but if it's an email, text, phone call, whatever, just make sure that it happens. So put this in your contract, hold your builder to it, and just watch how much better your build experience becomes. Now, I know what you're thinking, will my builder actually agree to this? But here's the thing, professional builders who value their reputation, they'll welcome this structure. They'll welcome the chance to improve. Builders who push back or get defensive about regular communication, that's a red flag for me. And if you're already in a build and communication is breaking down, you can try to introduce the RIM method midstream. If you can frame it in a way of making the project smoother and easier for the builder, they're more likely to come around, because the honest truth is that good communication makes everybody better. If you want more information, visit me at albatrossacademy.ca. I've got lots of free resources there that'll help you out.